go. All right, so here we go for HBAR lesson 42. For this is is it the last? This is the last theoretical week for the semester, and please remember that in the last week we have studio training up out there, obviously where the BMH radio studios are. Please, obviously in advance, I'm telling you now, there'll be 4 sessions. Obviously, the according to our scheduled dates for the, I mean, our scheduled classes, should I say? All right, so there'll be one, obviously, one from between 12 to 2 on Monday, 2 to 3, and then on Tuesday again just for the full class at 2 to 3, and so it's Thursday, 12:30 to 2 o'clock. Okay, excuse me. Today's very much practical for the particularly long lesson. I want to say it's a 3-hour lesson, but what I want to do is make sure that we have a good walkthrough music playback systems, particularly Genesis as well as RCS, so that you can see how the different music programs of what am I saying, the playback systems work. And again, you must really pay attention, please, to the Genesis one. In addition to us doing our studio training, then we will also, please, you must have a look at this tutorial quite repetitively to be able to master Genesis in particular. What I'm doing is including RCS just because RCS is more widely used as well across a lot of the stations here in South Africa. And so you're better off knowing how both systems work individually. The one will be showing you how to add a song and how to obviously work with the log. And again, the other one will be taking you through the full tutorial. Okay, well, the first introductory tutorial. Here we're going to do music programming in lesson 42. And again, any questions again throughout this and the next week because of the formative 2, please get in contact with me directly. Excuse me, right. All right, so let's have a look at music. Just a little bit of a brief intro. We'll do a little bit of theory around it as well. And we have briefly spoken about music formats, as you know. So there is a history and development of music radio formats and programming practices within obviously different radio sectors. So in the beginning of this particular semester, right, we spoke about we recapped on the history of radio and why it was, why we broke up into music formats because of the introduction of television was the biggest influence, and then radio was kind of figuring its way out, and eventually found its way to music formats, right? Specialized for a specialized target market, right? So, as you know, within our own obviously market, we have a lot of AC stations, a lot of adult contemporary stations. For you also to understand when you're saying what is urban, you need to understand what urban is, what we mean by youth, what we mean by alternative, what we mean by just CHR, so contemporary hit radio, and what that actually entails, right? So if you look at Boston Media House, this is definitely this is a youth alternative urban station, right? Okay, that does play some contemporary hit radio, so contemporary hits as well. In other words, stuff that's charting definitely, that is very popular. We do play that on the station itself as well. But if you go look at ICASA and you go and obviously look at all the stations, if you go to their websites, they'll tell you now about us. Little tab there, whatever it is, section on their website. It will explain specifically what their license agreement is with ICASA by telling you that we do play uh, predominantly jazz, urban, or whatever it may be, a jazz urban AC, like Metro FM would be classified underneath that. Right. If we look at obviously national internationally, North America influenced commercial radio places an emphasis on the centralized routine and information-led nature of music programming, whereas producers in the UK, public service broadcasting, BBC, the radio, which again, as I said to you, BBC just dominates in the UK. About 92% of all media is consumed and produced by the BBC there. Have more freedom to choose their music, particularly in the evening slot. So there's different ways that we approach, and again, I don't want you to specifically look at BMH Radio because there's a lot of liberty there in terms of how we allow the DJs to play the music that they feel that they can actually want to play on their shows. But we do have, again, they do have to adhere to the music policy of BMH Radio, for example. With us, again, we don't even, I mean, if from down to campus to all the way to commercial radio, you don't have the liberty of choosing what music you play on your show. So particularly like an example where we would select is like, let's say, a feature that is obviously music based or whatever it may be, and we would have to run it by someone obviously in management, either let's say a program manager or a station manager, depending on where you are. Like let's say community might only have a station manager, and you would have to, on the week on the weekly, should I say, would have to then go and send and say, listen, yeah, this is what I plan to play on my show. Is it okay? Is it not? Especially if the music format is still being adjusted, particularly with a new station, right? Eventually, the program manager or your manager will have enough faith in you to say, listen, you don't have to send me the stuff anymore. You don't have to okay it with me. I do trust that you will select something from our library, right? So which means that it is part of our format and we've played it before in some other way or capacity. And so you can choose from there, ideally, not pick something out of that library, right? Okay, but anyway, there's variation on how it is across the world. Once again, we really do. I remember when we started at Tux, obviously many centuries ago. There was we were allowed to choose. We had to play. There were 6 songs that were allocated to us per hour that we had to play, and we could choose the rest, obviously, so that we could make our shows sound a little bit more unique, a little bit more to our flavor, particularly knowing that it had to be again under the umbrella of the format itself. The station back then it was rock, right? So that was the very specific thing. Unless again, my show in particular would be it was called the variety show, right? And the variety show meant that I was allowed to also break a little bit of the format, not a lot at all. Specifically, only one, maybe 2 songs for particular features that were really out of the rock genre. And the truth of the matter is, I wasn't doing anything great. And I'll tell you why. Well, I'll tell you why in retrospect. Because the thing is, if you're listening to a rock station, you don't care for Tony Braxton, and you don't care for Mariah Carey, and you don't care for Britney Spears or whatever it is. You don't. So the thing is, like even a special feature that even sounds great. I mean, it's constructed well, whatever it is, doesn't matter. It's for the wrong audience. But I was allowed to eventually because I really just ran my manager down. He was like, "Fine, just do it and just play it out." We would particularly play it out as the first song we would like to get in the mood for myself and my newsreader, and so it fit like a little bit of an excuse. Um, so again, small or big stations, that's what I'm going to say, is that you have to stick and you will stick to your music policy. Right, kickstart a question. Why do you listen to radio? You yourself. Why is music on radio so important? And many varied questions from yourself. Write these things down also, because again, you need to have that retrospection when we do lessons and we go through material that is part of obviously your course, right? Your subject. So why do you listen to the radio? Do you listen because you want to be more informed? Do you really enjoy the DJs or the obviously maybe the interviews that they have again with the competitions or whatever it may be, right? So this type of stuff we've already covered as to why the obvious reasons, right, that most people listen to radio are right. But we knew from the very beginning of the semester, and we're coming back full circle here, why is the music on radio so important? Because it's the number one reason people listen to radio at the end of the day. Even with, again, obviously the influx of streaming services, that is, we can say that, and then like this, the nature of the society in 2024 and in the digital age, we always just say things and we never really think about them as well. So here's my thing. Yes, so streaming services are available and we can choose what we would like to listen to, and that's fine. What difference has that been from us having music on our cell phone or at home or like on like CDs before that and tapes even before that? We could always select the music that we wanted, always, like always. It was never, yes, it's in a much larger quantity, I suppose, right now, much larger scale, but it doesn't matter. Like you're not going to listen to 1,000 different songs in one week because you can choose to select them. You're going to tend to unselect what is it you want. I want to listen to some R&B or some quieter or whatever it is, and that's fine. And you'll do that. It's not it's not a match. For me personally, it doesn't cause a threat for the station unless the station is playing bad music. That's the thing, because again, you're consuming two very different products. Okay, and one is, again, like I said, one is a streaming service, the other is a radio station, right? And a radio station is holistic in its own way, and a streaming service is holistic in its own way. So again, it made a lot of sense, and it makes a lot of sense whenever we see, let's say focus groups or RAMs or whatever it is, come back and say, what is it that you like the most about radio? And they say to you, well, it's the music. That's the reason I listen to it. That makes a lot of sense. Why is it so important? Because again, according to our format, right, that we are licensed to, it's not only a mood stabilizer. That for me is a better word. Instead of just to set the mood, it's a mood stabilizer in the sense that we know what type of station we listen to, classic FM, that type of stuff, right? Where you're going to get a very specific type of music genre, right, and format, because it suits our mood as well. Like it's very important that we like to listen maybe to oldies or R&B or whatever it may be, right? And we know that the station is going to provide it because it is advertised as that, right? The music is really important for the brand as well. I mean, it's a part of the brand image. So the sound, the sound, the touch, the smell of the station is predominantly actually in the back end of your mind, um, as what it is that we expect and know about the station to be true, right? So why do we listen to music? Theoretically speaking, let's go to some reasons why you listen to music, right? You can listen to any music at any time for any or no reason, right? Researchers by Jenny M. Sorry, what is that? Grok. Oh, there we go, Grok. That's better. By Jenny M. Grok, right? And Michael J. Hogan points to 11 important adaptive functions of music, which describe the role of music plays in our lives. And these are very familiar to you because you can think of them. Like, when it's stress regulation, when we're stressed, we listen to music. Why? Because we use music as a way to distract ourselves in stressful situations. So it helps us escape a situation and comfort us too, right? You know that song that just makes you feel better, that makes you feel calmer, that makes you feel like a bit more safe, I suppose, when things are going hectically around you, right? So music is there. Anxiety, kind of almost the same thing, but it's not, right? So anxiety is a bit of it's a more of a an internal reaction, where stress is something that's put on us, so it's externally, pushed upon us, and we are reactive to that, right? Where anxiety is an internal reaction, right? We believe music helps us regulate anxiety and comforts us, sometimes by increasing positive emotions and matching anxiety to music, distracting and comforting us, or even reevaluating our thoughts. So we know we have a lot of music that, if you and again, just in terms of mood, you go to the gym, And I find when I go to the gym, like Monday, I might feel like a certain type of song, certain types of songs. And maybe Fridays are very different. They normally are, right? And a Sunday might be very different, but it also only depends on the mood, what is happening in a day, what am I expecting in a day, how did I sleep at night, did I, what's going on in my life, what I need, do I need something that's a little bit more meaningful? I'm sitting down, like maybe someone's passed away, someone's sick, maybe I've lost my job, whatever it is. And I think, well, you know what, like the music always speaks boundaries more. I say, the higher boundaries to what we could possibly also feel that we'd attempt to say and act and express ourselves, but it doesn't match sometimes songs, music that say it all for us, right? Anger regulation, right? So music can calm us down, even validate our emotions. So I'll play like an angry song. Oh, this person that's man, and then Achilles, I hate you so much right now. It's not. It's called a chord out there. It's not. But we just want to scream with it as well. We listen to music because we believe it helps regulate our anger, loneliness regulation. Music helps us reduce our feelings of loneliness. So remuneration, right? Rumination, excuse me. Sure, what is going on? So it was we sometimes dwell and focus on anxious and sad thoughts because music lets us do so in a very unique way. We hear a song that's particularly me when I listen to some Tracy Chapman, and I enjoy it. I when I say it makes me feel like a little sadder, because I do remember how important certain songs were to kind of like step out of reality just for a moment and think about those moments that they really were maybe little bit more painful, lonelier uh, for me. And Tracy Chapman was always there, with these particular songs, So rumination, right? Reminiscence is when we listen for good old times, the good old times. Oh, loved it when I listened to that, like on the dance floor. Loved it because it was maybe my wedding song. Loved it because this is what I used to listen to with my dad, or in the car while we're driving to school, or whatever it may have been. So reminiscence. I find a lot of us listen to music that we loved in a previous time. Do you understand, of our lives? Because also mm, we've already tried and tested it. That's what I was. I don't really enjoy new music, just because I think it's my attitude at the moment that doesn't have tolerance for new stuff. And whenever I listen to music, it's all the time, anytime, all day. I listen to music all day long, right? But it's only music that I know has come from maybe, I suppose, 5 years ago, and much later than that. I'm saying in the back, like moving backwards right down to the 1980s, right? Um, that's the type of music I like. You know why? Because I know that I enjoy it. It was a hit for me, and so it'll always be a hit for me. And again, it's one of those things where I don't necessarily every single song I'll be like, oh, but, like that's when I was my first day of varsity, or my first, like I remember, I don't know, when I had my first breakdown. I don't know, so that might be it. But it definitely is it's in your library for a reason, and that's because you loved it for a reason at some or other point in your life. Strong emotional experiences. So we seek out profound emotional experience through music. When we can't say it, they say it for us. Again, so I'm gonna push like songs like you won't. I mean, you won't know Missy Higgins. Actually, just everyone completely underrated her, and she's this massive Australian star, right? That had when she came here, and she was put on my show to be interviewed because she was doing two kind of very intimate sessions. I think it was at 66, right? Anyway, but the thing is that I had so many people that that phoned, that commented on social media, whatever it is, because they loved this woman. And I thought, who is this woman? Like, who is Miss Higgins? My sister, who does stay, she does stay in Australia, was like, oh, you're going to interview Missy Higgins. It's like, this is a massive, she's a massive, massive thing. I'm saying in other countries, right? And I was like, okay, 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 respect. And I spoke to her, not knowing much about her music. And then I listened to her. I went to the obviously the live show because, you know, because I was obviously invited. I had some tickets and whatever. And it was something out of this world. And why I'm saying this is because Missy Higgins, specifically, I can remember really difficult, really, really, really difficult times because her music is very, very kind of almost folkish, I would say, almost to some extent, but super emotional, where it like just cracks at your soul. Anyway, and like when I think about certain moments where yeah, it was just you and the music, You just think about that. And Missy often comes up as one of my many, like, plethora of choices that I can and I do make when I listen to music. Strong emotional experiences are so awe and appreciation. Sometimes listening to music is all about appreciating its beauty, cognitive relations. So some of us use music to improve our concentration and focus while studying or working. I'm sure you can relate to that. So this includes streamlining attention, buffering against sensory inputs, changing the sensory landscape, and so on and so forth. Identity formation and relatability. So music helps us express ourselves and develops an identity. The extent or this extends to a social identity shared by a larger group. So, for example, if you're into like let's say piano, or you are into like a deep house, or you're into whatever it is, you'll find like a family, you'll find like a group, like a little bit of a tribe that also likes it. Because tend to when you'll go and you'll frequent certain clubs and bars and places where the music, that type of music is going to be played. You'll meet people, you'll, I don't know, dance to certain people, whatever it may be. And you'll make a connection, right? It works as a social glue and a tether between people, and you know that, I know that, everyone knows that. It's also sometimes considered a sleep aid. So many of us use music, not us music, songs, noise, and auditory podcasts to help us sleep. I have done that a few times where it's not a song. It's definitely one of those things where someone is talking, and it's that very kind of like meditation to calm me down, specifically before, so that I actually can eventually fall to sleep. And they might last 2, 3, 4 hours long. It doesn't really matter, right? Let's consider it in the sound segment, right? So here's some examples of types of music formats: 80s hits, active rock, adult contemporary, adult hits, country, dance, alternative, children's radio, classic hits, classic rock, pop, jazz. And then there's this big old list that I want you to click on here and go and try and identify some SA music formats, which you've learned about so many times, I'm saying, throughout the year. I'm saying not this year, sorry, last year, and specifically first year as well. We just go and click on that. It says a music genre list, and you can go and enjoy that. All right. So what I wanted to do also is, which you will find uploaded to Cold Campus once or with this recording, right? Is something called the Radio Handbook, and I came across it, and I thought, oh, you know what? Obviously, I used it as just as an excerpt here. One of the things that Carol Fleming said. The book is about 220 pages, so great. I'll actually show it to you in just a second, right? But Carol says there that music is not a means of providing a break or relief from speech, even if it enables a presenter to set up a next guest interview in the studio. From a listener's perspective, music is an integral part of the station's output. A production team is responsible for presenting its programming as part of the station's overall flow of output, obviously, and to ensure that the music is blended in to prevent an undue impression of the programming lurching from one item to the next. So basically, what she's saying that it's super important for us to mend, like I say, keep the flow of I suppose not the flow of the programming, right, from one obviously aspect to another, from one segment to another. The music is not just the glue, but it is again kind of the face of what it is that that represents the station. So I'm gonna stop to share this so I can actually just show you just a little bit of the book itself, right? So obviously I'm not going to go through the whole book, but something to just kind of entice you and how helpful this book is. So let's just go further down to just the content so you can see that how nice is this, the renaissance of radio, the radio revolution, radio style, the voice of a station, the role of news, the tools of broadcasting, the types of programming, radio representations, accountability, getting started in radio, right? So all of these things, great, definitely, I mean, you want to always be able to for example, just make sure that you all are well read at any one particular point. For example, wherever it does reference, it's a different country. It's not necessary, but when you do get down to, for example, um, like things like referencing different types of shows, branding stations. Again, this is very obviously it's UK related, right? Quite like your textbook, right? But it speaks much more broadly for me than your managing radio textbook does. But and there we go, some pictures and whatever it may be. You can obviously get a good look for yourself. All right. Okay. Give me a second here. Move back to the lesson. Oops. Clicking on different things here. Yeah. Okay. Anyway. All right. So let's look at the station's music policy. In any radio station, few subjects generate as much heated debate and managerial anguish as the music policy. And again, it is something that is you're given obviously the directive from ICASA. I do understand it, but damn, when you're trying to actually build a new station or let's say rebrand and maybe your music policy, I'm saying your in terms of the cost has changed, which it hardly ever does. But yeah, let's just assume that it might be one of the external factors that causes you to go and fix like your music policy or like say refurbish your music policy. There's obviously a lot of debate and a lot of discussion because it's a really important thing. So and this is where the desire for creativity and spontaneity can conflict with obviously the need for consistent brand imaging and station sound. So establishing the need for a radio station to have a music policy at all. The suggestion is two kinds of music programs, right? Music radio programs. So those where the individual tracks of music are secondary to speech content, whether in the form of disc, obviously DJs, banter, or structured feature, or it is the complete other. So, for example, like that, the first one, I would think like ICFM falls underneath that. And let's say, to some extent, I suppose Y would fall underneath that as a personality driven radio and the music is there, it's still balanced, but the thing is we're trying to push the jocks and the shows, and the music is just it's formatted and structured in a way that it must just be played and it's not focused on, whereas other stations take a very predominant approach to playing a lot more music because the brand is elevated more by the music itself, right, and the sound of the station, right. Then let's say the programming, I'm saying from the DJs or the show side is so the music policy distinction between the two types of program. right? Programs rather reflects the way that the typical listener is going to use the radio station at different times. So, and that does make sense. So is it afternoon? Is it mid morning? Is it breakfast? Whatever it may be. Is it late nights? Presenters are seldom appointed without the program manager having heard them perform on a previous station. Obviously, so we use a demo to make sure that they match the sound of the station, right? And for a daytime show, management will look at presenters' skills, entertainment values, how they have a persona that might fit the station's brand. The selection process rarely includes any questioning about their music taste because it's not important. Agree, right? Like you have no, like we don't care about your music taste. Like you've got to play the music that we are playing and we are well legislated I suppose to a certain extent to do it right okay to play but these are exactly the personal qualifications sought in a presenter or producer of a credible specialist music program right so the knowledgeable and talented specialist music presenter can be left to left to choose appropriate tracks for their own shows but it would be presumptuous for a general presenter to believe that they should select whatever they want to be heard at any hour of the day, right? Again, once I said to you, it is a process that you have to get, again, approval, that type of stuff. And again, once station management, I think, trust you a little bit more, right? And that you understand the format you don't understand. You understand that there's a bank of music, there's certain songs that we just don't play anymore, etc., right? Um, then they'll let you get on with it. The head of a music station frequently uses programs like RCS, right? We'll look at Zeta for today as well, or Genesis, like you might have seen at the BMH studios itself. And the call for variety is not a call for a large number of titles. How do they win with fewer records by making sure that every record is right, and every track that you're selecting is right. This requires obviously that requires music testing and careful attention to rotation and flow. Something that you are very familiar with at this point because you did do AMTs, you did do clocks with rotation. You did look at the beginning parts of how to understand music programming itself. So just give me a second here before I go on. What I want to do is I want to break and I want to go to a video. So share. Yeah, and I selected. Let's do. So it's quite a long video, as I've said to you before. So I'm just going to skip that. But it's essential that you obviously go through it itself. Come on, you. Anyway, whatever. Okay. All right. Zeta's on air module. Enjoy broadcasting live in a moment. But upcoming events. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Hey, look at that. We are live once again. How's it going? As always, Thursday, 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Time for another RCS Live. As always, Nate Mumford, Director of Sales Engineering, hanging out with you. And today we are talking about Zeta's on-air module. A little back to basics here for 2023. As you know, we have some great videos so far this year with some great guests, including like Pfeiffer and Stan over at RCS Europe. And if you want to check out those past videos, we, of course, have a full archive for you over at rcsworks.com/rcs-live. We can go to our YouTube page because we are live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Twitter Live. So if you got a question for me, the chat is open for you. You can ask away. It could be Zeta, G Selector, or whatever. We typically, you know, if it doesn't pertain to today's topic, we'll talk about it offline. We always do that too. So a couple housekeeping things to get out of the way. Yes, we are back on the road for 2023. Some great events out there. I know that coming up, I just purchased my airfare for CRS. That's March 13th through the 15th over in the Omni in Nashville. Always a great time. Looking forward to it every single year. This year, we have a room upstairs. We're doing kind of like open office hours. If you want to schedule some time, bring your G Selector database and talk about some interesting today about the Zeta on air.
I just want to forward him so you can stop promoting.
Module. You know, this is one of those things that I always kind of gloss over when I talk about Zeta. And, you know, part of this RCS live series to build these, you know, fundamental understanding of the product, right? And so kind of, as I said beforehand, the stop button. Oh, that's what that does? Yeah, it makes sense, but are we going to really hit that stop button? So I thought we would take the time today and talk a little bit into the Zeta on-air module. Hey, Mark, how's it going, man? Hopefully I'll see you soon, right? And so let's kind of just start kind of here and how this operates, right? Because some automation systems, you know, they have everything is in tandem. Some have like virtual cart decks, and that's how they feed it. In this circumstance, what we do is we have kind of the log here on the bottom left. And that log is going to be essentially your playlist that comes from Music Scheduler. Everything is in order. And essentially the on-air sequencer will go and play this boom, 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 boom as is. If you want to see more items, just drag it down. You can see more items. You want to see less, drag it up. You can see less if you wanted to. I have a lot of users that come from the next-gen world. So they kind of like to somewhat replicate the next-gen environment. It's one of those things you can kind of tell the evolution with RCS, with next-gen, master control, and Zeta is now kind of a hybrid of both of those. And so you'll see some like kind of similarities in regards to the layout, but again, with the customization aspect, you know, we want to kind of say, hey, if you want something a little different, you can do that. Like, for example, you know, all these are customizable if you wanted to. It's under themes over here, themes and appearances. And you can see down there, there's the hotkeys. We'll get rid of that. Log editor. I'm not running the log editor. Non-media library. And what are we working on today? Oh, look at that. The on-air, right? Look at all these things you control, both the font size as well as the colors and all of that. You know, again, we want you to organize this and customize this the way that you want it to look like. I always laugh. We have a lot of users here in house that have like the old school, like, you know, almost the DOS-esque, you know, 1980s fonts and all that stuff. You can do that too if you wanted to. That's all here. It's all customizable, both the font, the size, and all of those options. So you can always customize that. And again, that's user specific, depending on your layout. You can have the Nate user with Nate's layout when he opens up his own Zeta, right? So what are we looking at here exactly? So I can go over here on the left-hand side, and I see you, Mark. Give me 1 second. On the left-hand side, you can see that we have the date, we have the time, the hard ETM. That's the next ETM we have coming up, and the gap time is there. That gap time is 0 because I, on my demo database, have a pitchless stretch and squeeze going on. So you can see here that there's different types of behaviors when you're inside of Zeta. And all that's telling you essentially is that that's my next ETM. It's a hard ETM or an exact time marker. It's a timestamp. My next one's the top of the hour. Some users do it by day part by day part. It's really up to you. This is just telling you that, hey, the next time I'm supposed to care about is noon. And I can tell you that I am completely on top of that because I'm currently in a stretch and squeeze mode. If I jump to auto or maybe a manual, you'll see the number slightly adjust. And depending on your configuration, that number may jump or may not jump. Don't worry about it. It's only because if you have pitchless stretch and squeeze, that behavior's in there. And you can see this hour in particular is stretched and squeezed by 0.56%. And if I make an adjustment, play, pause, stop, yeah, that number is going to adjust as we keep on going on here. So we have, of course, the enterprise solution in Zeta. All of our stations are inside of this. So you can have multiple stations if you want. As with all modules inside of Zeta, there's no restrictions. So, for example, if you have, let's say, 3 stations in your cluster, I always kind of call this like the Sunday night last man or woman standing, where you can essentially have, let's say there's 3 stations. We'll say Hot AC, Top 40, Classic Rock. I like to split it in 3 different sides of the screen. So vertically, you know, on-air log, on-air log, on-air log in each station. So you can have multiple on-air modules open looking at different stations or the same station if you want as well. Boom. So Mark posed a question here. So Mark was saying, can you set up Zeta to display the progression of the commercial break as a whole instead of individual commercial elements. There's some settings there you can adjust, but typically what we do is we have essentially the overall commercial break spot block and the ones inside of it, because we want to see those. But one of the things I'm going to show you today is also this virtual events example and using this little toggle up here to show the virtual events that are in there. And so, yeah, so when we're controlling this, green, that is our progress bar. That's telling us this is playing right now as we speak. We got 19 seconds left to go on this particular element. As it nears the end, did that little 3, 2, 1 countdown. Yes, you will see this go from kind of a bright red to see there's a little kind of little red there. It gets brighter as we get closer, 5 seconds, the next one, boom. Hey, heads up, this is ending, this is ending, this is ending. And of course, 3, 2, 1, 0. Play the next element from there. And of course, you fire the third one on top of that. You might be wondering, by the way, what are these 1A, 1B, and 1C? Those are our play streams. I have identified those in my environment. Hey, Diggs, how's it going? I appreciate it. Thanks for checking in. Any questions, let me know, man. And so we have here is 1A, 1B, and 1C. And so what you can do is you can customize this. So, for example, I've had some users, it's hot AC. So they like, AC1, AC2, AC3, or something along those lines. I think it's 3 characters is the max. Or you just have the play streams identified in there, just 1A, 1B, 1C. And those are important too, because, for example, one of the things I always show here, you've seen me done this beforehand, the hot sparing. When I activate that, you'll see these change 1A, 1B, 1C to 9A, B, and C. And you can see there, boom, it changes, and it goes back over here. Deactivate the hot spare, turn that back. It's just essentially a way of telling the sequencer this is where it's playing on the board itself, right? RJ, I see in here too. Let's see. How to know scheduling songs is plus or negative? I mean, are you asking me if it's important to know how to schedule songs? I say absolutely it is. If you want to know the keyboard shortcut, the short answer is you can do both of those if you wanted to. So yes, inside of Zeta, you could always do a custom keyboard shortcut. Of course, with G Selector, we have live integration, so you can always go and just insert it from G Selector. But absolutely, is it important to know scheduling songs? I think absolutely it's important to know scheduling. It's all about, if you heard me, I've done this for like 3+ years now. If you heard me say these isms, there's a bingo board that I keep on repeating myself. It's about control. It's about doing what you want to do, right? But understanding why are you doing it. So we have these tools in here, like sound code. Why is sound code here? It might pertain to you. It might not pertain to you. But if let's say, I was just talking at the IBS conference over in New York City on Friday, and I was talking with a lot of college students over there, and we were talking about the importance of why you're doing something. And of course, you can code this as a category, power, sub-power, recurrent. You can organize this as a category of A, B, or C. But RJ, A, B, C means nothing to me. It means something to you. But when we have the sound codes and the tools and all of that stuff as well. The Zeta editor. You mean the editor itself? I'll poke you offline, RJ. Or you can email me. Just edmund@rcsworks.com. Let me know what you're curious there. I'll help you out. So back to the on-air module up here. Right? So again, we want to see more assets. We can see more. We want to see less. We can see less. We talked about the green progress bar, the red, the song is wrapping up. And you might notice some of these little yellow lines over here. And that is just merely the intro time of these songs. That's all it is. And so let's see if I can find some intros here. So we'll bring up Forget You into the mix. And we'll bring up some of the other ones in here. We'll bring Goo Goo Dolls in. I think Goo Goo Dolls has more than one, I'm not mistaken. And you're trying to show you some of these little lines here that are popping up here as we produce this inside the system. So those yellow dashes are just intros. And don't forget, we have intro 1, intro 2, intro 3. Those are there for you as well. So you can check out those. That's all that means. If you like moves like Jagger, stuff like that has like 3 intros, you can identify those. Boom, 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 boom. Intro times in there, different colors, customization we talked about as well. The modes. Let's talk about the modes for a quick second. So obviously each one of these modes have different behaviors. So the auto mode is going to be essentially the overnight. There's no jocks in the studio. We're playing everything in order as is. So you can see here, I cannot control that segue chain. Nope, can't do it. Not going to happen. Whereas if I jump over here from auto into live assist, I now have the option to change this if I wanted to. And notice up here, there's an auto post chain for Forget You. I can always change this and do a stop chain. When CeeLo Green's over, I'm going to stop what I'm doing. Boom, fire the next element. Or I have to manually fire the next element. If I have segue, then it's done automatically as well. So this song will play, go into the next one, next one, next one, so on and so forth. It's a very cool, powerful tool. as well as you can control it, right? So notice, by the way, I'm still like going through all these modes, making changes. It's not affecting the on-air sequencer. It's a very powerful on-air sequencer. I could take a song, even though there's like 30 seconds left, I can drag in a brand new song. Boom, I can play it instantly. I joke with some users. I've shown Zeta voice tracking. So with like 30 seconds left in Forget You, I've done voice tracks into Forget You, into Mood. Would you do that normally in the real world? Never. Don't do that. That's a bad idea. But I like to be one of those people that the fact that I know I could makes me feel better, right? Oh, so RJ, you're saying, can you kind of show which song is in which category? A1, B1, 2. Not up here. That's more of over here in the log itself. I can always insert and do station specific and then do category group, something like that. Put those in there. So that's probably what you're asking there. Can I add that in there? Category group. There's your R, C's, A's, B's, C's. And of course, once you get it where you want it to be, organize it, save it, call it a day in there too. Manual mode is going to be essentially the typically a morning show or a news talk. I'm going to play everything by hand, right? Fire everything. Notice I can't change this chain type over here. It's all stops. Go back to live assist. Typically, the most normal, if I'm a person in the studio, if I'm live in the studio assisting Zeta and operating, I'm using live assist because it gives me that control where I can both edit certain functions as well as, make some changes and put it back. Couple little gotchas in here. And again, think of the behavior here. When I say gotchas, it's really a checks and balances to make sure that you know what you're doing. So if I go, for example, here and do, a stop chain on the log module. So the log is telling me that Mood should have a stop chain after it. And that can come from a music scheduler or it can come here inside of Zeta. So you can see there's a stop chain. If I put this back in auto mode, think about what we're doing for a second. I am telling the on-air sequencer, the thing that's playing the song on the air, that there's no humans in the room, automatically segue into each song automatically. But then I'm telling Zeta, don't play the next song automatically. Which one do you want to do? So there's some logic built in here that's going to protect you from yourself. Notice, by the way, 24 golden here. Mood, that's still going to be a segue. Even though in the log it says a stop chain, that's because of the modes. Put it back in live assist, you'll see that mode will reappear back on there. There's some behaviors there, right? Just like there's also this network mode. Network mode might not have a human involved, but notice the little difference in behavior. I could be a PD for a news talk, still be around the studio versus an auto mode, which is kind of the overnight mode, right? And for that, if you go to configuration and stations, right? This is a station-specific setting. Open up your RCS hot AC, ETM, and fills. And you can see here, right here is just some of that behavior we're talking about, right? What am I going to do for an ETM, an exact time marker that has specific behavior? Remember, hard, stop what you're doing, hit the time. If the song has got 30 seconds left, I don't care. Stop what you're doing, play the next element. Whereas a soft sync is like, wait till this element's done, then drop the rest and play the next element. So now when we're in live assist mode, what's the behavior there? What's the behavior in network mode? Me personally, I hated having syncs when there's a live shift and a live jock in the studio. So what I did personally is when I was a PD and I had live shifts, I purposely did not schedule any ETM triggers like hard or soft syncs during my jock shift because I didn't want to confuse the user. You say it like, okay, I can catch it, it's fine, but we've always been there where it's like you are 1 second away from that soft sync or hard sync triggering and you're talking to somebody, a sales rep came in, asked you a question, you forgot to eject it or whatever it is, and then boom, all of a sudden you're like, hey, what just happened here? Did someone? I like to avoid that. So that's these behaviors we have in here. Again, config, stations, ETM, and fill. These are station-specific behaviors that we have here to override, and it's up to you if you want to include them or not include them. Some really powerful stuff over there. And those are the modes, right? Auto, no jocks in the studio. Live assist, I'm a jock. Live assisting Zeta and operating. Manual mode is I'm going to fire everything by hand. And of course, we have network mode and then splits mode too. If you have a splits player assigned to there, that's a mode as well. And again, these all have macros too. So for example, if you have a new shift, right, RJ? And you wanted to, let's say, every time RJ comes in at 3, he wants to put it in live assist. we just start the top of the hour, the macro that says, hey, this is RJ's shift. Maybe we change the fill for RJ's, day part, and then we put it in live assist and we call it a day. Stuff like that. So there's cool things you can do there. And let's see here. Chain types. We're chugging along over here, moving a little quickly for time. But for chain types, you can do it again from the chain level here or from the on air up here. I'll let the song finish first and I'll fire the next element here. There's that red. There's our intro time for Iris. Nice yellow progress bar that, of course, again, you can always adjust if you wanted to. Boom, 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 boom. And, of course, this particular has an auto post on top of it. That's what's going to play over the top of the intro time. So you can always have these chain types, segue or stop. But if you have a link in here, like this Zeta High Tech over here, you have a bunch of additional options. There is the auto post, which ironically is what we just showed. And I'll be honest with you, I'm not a big fan of that. I will always be very honest up front with you over here in these RCS live videos. And I always joke. And ironically enough, Goo Goo Dolls Iris is always my example. Imagine if you have forward momentum on your station and you always want things to move, right? Forward momentum, those top 40s. The idea is that if I have, let's say, Goo Goo Dolls with a, a 12-second intro, and I essentially have a 2-second dry sweeper, and I have the auto post enabled, that means that I have roughly 9 seconds of that quiet mandolin, Goo Goo Dolls, Iris intro. I'm like, I'm vibing, right? And this is good. And all of a sudden, 9 seconds later, RCSFM post. Well, that's really aggressive. That's a very, very aggressive auto post. And a lot of users, although these positions could be individual, so I can always say like, hey, by default, make it this, but I can always change it afterwards like we just did before in this chain type in the log module. Typically, most users keep this as just all or nothing. Now, I prefer to use this guy here, which is the link song chain. This maintains the forward momentum. What you can do here under links, if I open the links and I'll just grab this dry one here, what I would do is I would essentially right here, there's an early seg. It's this guy here, early seg. And that what that does is like right there, the early seg is essentially saying that, okay, so I have, let's say at this entire sweeper is what? It's, boom, the tryptone is 6.3 seconds. So you're saying that this is entirely dry, 6.3 seconds. So if I have a song that is 5 seconds with an intro time, you're telling Zeta, play this dry sweeper for 1.397 seconds and then trigger the intro time of the song of 5 seconds so that I maintain the forward momentum. See that? It's a really powerful tool to have the forward momentum. And of course, if I, let's say, have a particular element that's like, I have an intro time of 2 seconds and I have this is a bad example, but a 5-second dry sweeper, I'll have 3 seconds of dry imaging in between the two songs. Now, you might want that. You might not want that. That's up to you. But when you have, let's say, 3 different versions, I've said this in the past beforehand, 3 versions of a sweeper, fully produced, half produced, fully dry, right? What you can do is you can put those attributes, I always do in content over in G Selector and say that I am a half produced, or full dry. And I essentially say that a fully produced attribute cannot schedule next to a half produced or a fully dry. I can't play a half next to a fully produced or a fully dry. I can't do a fully dry next to a fully produced or a half dry. And when we schedule those using G Selector's multi-song changer and sort by intro times, takes 2 seconds, and it makes the Zeta G Selector schedule put these transitions in for you intentionally. And then we use the early seg, the link song default chains to keep that forward momentum. That was a lot that I threw at you in about 30 seconds. I have some past videos on that for you if you want, or you can poke me. I'll show you there too. But I just want to give you some idea of why we do a link song chain versus an auto post. Auto post will just hit the top of the post no matter what it is. If you have a classic rock station and there's a 43-second intro and it's a 3-second dry piece of imaging, you'll have 40 seconds of the song, and then you'll have, boom, the 3 seconds in there. Some users love it. Some production directors purposely build that into their clocks and all that stuff. That's great. For me, I like to have the 3 versions of the same sweeper. We have a voice guy who cuts it. I have him cut one fully dry, Production director builds fully produced, cuts the session in half, makes a half produced, and then has a fully dry version as well. It's also a way to recycle the same type of sweeper 3 times and maintaining that sense of, it's always a new sweeper. There's either a bell or some sound effect in there that catches the listener's ear that's different from the other ones that's in there as well. Make sense? Right? I'm going to do a little early here, last call for questions. I want to show you a couple more things here, but I'm going to move a little quick here. So if you have last call for questions, get them in right now, right? Of course, we have the pause, stop, play next. Those are in there. We have a lot of users that will assign those to hotkeys and have those specific behaviors as well. I want to show one of the really cool new enhancements we have with virtual events. The idea is virtual events is we have, let's say, a 60-minute mix show. And in that mix show, we define that there's different songs happening. So you can see right there, that's song 1, artist 1. This is song 2, artist 2. This is song 3, artist 3. This is a relatively, we'll just say, a 60-minute mix show. And those are different songs inside of it. And we want to make sure we define those songs, either for the RDS, for the now playing, or for the stream, or just for visualization internally as well. So there's a brand new feature inside of Zetta called Virtual Events. I take my virtual event example. I'm going to drag it in here to the top as next to play. You'll see those little purple dashes. That's going to be essentially my virtual events themselves. And you look at this and you go, all right, Nate, so it's virtual events. Cool, whatever. What's the big deal? I'm going to click that little filter right there. And, oh, wait a second. Look at that. Now, again, this is just a quick little 2-minute example, so I have kind of weird times here. But notice how if this was a 60-minute show, I can now show all these individual songs inside of that virtual event. And I can see that using this filter right here, or I can hide that filter if I wanted to. Really cool stuff, right? So going back to Mark, your point earlier, there's some things you can do here like this to see more elements in there, right? So that's pretty cool. I love showing that. That's a relatively new feature. And again, that's virtual events. Some users love doing that. The idea is that I'm going to open up this metadata here. It's this third tab, virtual log events. I'll just click on here, add a brand new plus. That will give the timestamp. I can left click and drag an existing element into this to define where that song plays, or I can manually put it in there. Typically, the manual process is if you don't have the piece of audio in here, but it doesn't matter because this is only really for the RDS feed anyway. So if it was me, I'd probably just stick to manual anyway. But if you have a lot of mix shows and whatnot, you might just easily drag them in or type them by hand. That's up to you. It's a great resource. Also for FTP and autoloads, by the way. If you have a long form show on the Saturday mornings, Sunday nights, you can start defining some of those individual positions with virtual log events. Really cool stuff there. And yeah, last call for questions here. Let's see here. We talked about so far. Infern, I see you there, Infern. I got you. I'm going to open my little Zetta to go here for a quick second here. I just want to show you this. Infern was asking, boom, how do you speak to the radio station using that as I don't see a live mic option? So this is all essentially going to be your play streams, right? So the idea inside of Zetta, like any type of automation system, is we define a microphone, wherever that is. It's on a sound card on your desktop computer. It could be an audio over IP with digital audio, with WheatNet or Axia, all of that stuff. So the idea, though, is that we, inside of Zetta, we define what we're going to do there, right? What's the microphone? So in my particular setup here, I have just I was just talking this on Friday, a DBX processor with a Focusrite Scarlett 212 interface that goes to my USB interface that goes to my laptop. I define inside of my Windows environment. These are my play streams. This is my microphone, and I play those out accordingly. So that could be as simple or as complex as you want it to be, but that's the idea there if you want to do that, right? And so now I want to show you quickly here. Great question, by the way. This is my Zetta system. This is my Zetta to go. I want to show you some cool things. You know, we always cover Zetta to go, essentially is the companion piece to Zetta. It's more of the, I always say it doesn't replace, enhance the Zetta experience. I kind of jumped the gun a little here to show you, but notice this, I have one module open, just layout modules or layouts over here. I have one on air module. This is pretty cool. And what we can kind of do is also do something like maybe we have, I don't know, a 2-pane layout, something like that. Oh, so I want to do 2 panes side by side, 2 columns, and do something like that. And so I can essentially do 2 columns, and then I have, let's see here, let me actually put this one here for a second. I'm going to on air, and I'm going to go to the layout and go to the 2 vertical ones, and then I'm going to purposely pick a on air, and I'm going to pick a top 40. So what's really cool is a lot of stations have a monitor in the front waiting room. And I highly recommend users, they have these seats inside of Zeta. Why not just use a seat and put your nice station up on the monitor and have all 4, 5, 6, 7 stations on there? And you can see a nice snapshot of what's playing on the air, what's queued up. It's a really cool visual look, in my opinion. But again, what you're doing here is we're controlling the on-air product. So there's live assist mode. You can see it's in red. It's in red. We'll play some spots here. I'm going to put it in manual right now to see. Look, we're back in manual. We're in manual. Right? When this plays 3, 2, 1, and 0, guess what we got here? Infern. What do we got? Trick question. RJ, Diggs, dead air. That's what we got here, right? Dead air. So now what I can do is from the comfort of my couch, I can open up my Zeta to go, connect to my VPN, see that I'm in manual mode here. Oh, that's not right. Fire this element, put it in manual, put it back in auto, and boom, just like that, we're back on the air. So some really powerful tools in regards to what you can do with the on-air module and Zeta to go, right? Make sense? So yes, just to review here, Zeta's on-air module, a very powerful modern sequencer. It follows the log, plays things in order. We define the play streams. Auto mode is overnight mode. Live assist, most common. The jock's live in the studio, assisting Zeta in operating. We have manual modes. We have chain types. For example, link song chain will maintain forward momentum with dry pieces of imaging. We can always customize this entire layout with colors and schemes. We can also define the behaviors inside of config and stations when we're in live assist or network mode, right? Those things as well. We can view or hide virtual events with this little filter up here. We talked about green is the progress bar, red's when things are ending, yellow is the intro times. You see multiple yellow lines like this or like this. It just represents that we have multiple intros, intro 1, 2, and intro 3. And the last thing to talk about, I'll say this and I'll leave. If you have a news or traffic or weather and it's queued up inside the sequencer and it's on an auto load, what happens, right? So for example, if I have a news break, and I go and it airs at 11:33, and I have it queued up right now, and I have the auto load take over, and it gets imported. What happens? It's a couple seconds before it queues up in the sequencer. We have a locally cached version of that song when it plays inside of the sequencer. It will play its entirety as it was queued up. When it finishes and it starts the next element, Zeta will then take over the process of doing the auto load, and it will replace the audio with the brand new one. So it happens, I think, somewhere between like 0 and 30 seconds. Can't remember the exact marker. Maybe it's like 24 or something like that. But essentially, as we're getting this queued up in the sequencer, if we replace the audio on that element, we'll have a locally cached version, and then we'll finish replacing the audio on there. So, right? Makes sense? Good stuff. Thank you so much for checking us out for today. We'll be back next Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, always an RCS Live. We are here for you. Thank you for the questions. Of course, don't forget, check out our archive over at rcsworks.com/rcs-live, or check out the blog page for a full write-up on each one of these videos. And I'll see you out and about on the road for some of these great events.
Great. Okay. So just quickly, oh no, not that's for the next one. Just give me a second. Yeah, just give me a second. I wanted to just make so to quickly go through. There was another video here, man. How to add. Oh no, that's way too long for now. Walkthrough for new users. Was a different one. I just wanted to make it simple. There's this one. Yeah, like importing. Very short, very sweet. And then we can also have a look at the other ones as well.
Well, hello there. Thanks for joining me today. I'm going to take you through the...
No, that's the next one. Right. All right, let's see.
Before sure that you have your music loaded into folder and saved on such as MP3 or WAV. So let's open Zeta. Go to the top toolbar and select Tools. Scroll down to Media Import and right-click, and the Media Import window will open. Next to the directory search bar here, click the folder icon to find and select the music folder you created earlier. Select the file type, depending on what files your music tracks are. Media type determines what file you're uploading for Zeta, whether it be links, intros and jingles, or beds. We're going to select Song for uploading music. Matching is a useful tool to prevent multiple uploads of the same song. By selecting title and artist, Zeta will select any files matching the song and artist of your upload. You can then inform it to either import or not import, or even replace the same track if it's already uploaded into the system. By clicking this plus sign here, you're selecting which station you would like to activate this track in. It may not be necessary if you're using Zeta just for a single station. You can also take this time to assign a category to your songs if you're playlisting and using clocks within G-Selector, but we'll be covering this in the attributes video, and the link is in the description bar down below. Click the final folder here and we've finished. These songs will then be seen down here in the library window in Zeta.
Wow, that's a lot of demon right there. Yeah, anyway. People, okay. Then there was, sorry, I just want to stick to airtime. I should have done the introduction first. I don't know why I didn't do that first. This one here. Damn it. Let's do the walkthrough for new. Yeah, why did I not do that? That's so weird. No, I just did that, the walkthrough. I did do the walkthrough. Yes, that's fine. Okay. All right. So then here with G Selector again, how to add and customize a song. I don't think it's that. That's why I didn't want to play that. That's just a little too, a little. It's a little too advanced, and it's not that I don't think that you'll manage it either. Just at this point right now, because one, you will not anyway be working with RCS during your shows, and hence why I actually want to stop and then go to Genesis right there. That's what we said. And what we will then do is in the next part, right? We're going to just complete the lesson over here, right? There's going to be a bit of an exercise, and then I want to walk through Genesis itself. All right, so let's quickly end the first part there.